Of our sons, the future of the company, my dad announced, raising his glass at Christmas dinner. My mom slid 2 embossed envelopes across the table to my brothers. CEO and COO, she beamed. I blinked. Where's mine? I asked. My brother smirked. You can keep doing admin. Forks and knives paused midair. I set mine down. Got it, I said. Then hear me out. My name is Valerie. I'm 29, the oldest, and the one who has the driver schedules memorized and knows exactly where the backup scanners are kept. In our family logistics company, I run operations in everything but title. I built routing schedules while my brothers were busy taking photos in hard hats. I fixed vendor crises at 2 a.m. and was back making coffee at 6 a.m. like nothing happened. I trained half the warehouse on the new barcode system and wrote the guide they still use. It doesn't have my name on the cover, but it should. I paid my own way through night classes for data analytics, doing homework on a break room table under a flickering light. In my spare time, I built a small prototype that predicts delivery delays. I fed it weather data, traffic patterns, driver logs, and all the intuitive knowledge dispatch used to keep in their heads. It worked better than I'd hoped. It reduced missed delivery windows and kept our trucks moving efficiently. Yet I'd walk into a room and someone would still say, "Where's the admin?" and point at me. My brothers love cameras, stage lights, and saying things like, "My team and my vision." They love closing big deals. My parents love announcing, "Our boys will take over." When I push back, they tell me, "Don't be dramatic." When I go quiet, they say, "See, she's not ready." I kept thinking that if I just delivered results, something would eventually change. It never did. If you've ever been humiliated by your own family, subscribe right now and share your story below. I'm listening. Christmas dinner was picture perfect. Candles flickered, company-branded trays were laid out, napkins folded like elegant birds. I had written the holiday staffing plan the night before so half our drivers could have the morning off, and had coordinated with dispatch to cover routes expecting snow. I sat down, tired but proud of the work I'd done. My dad tapped his glass. "Tonight we announce the succession plan," he said, smiling like a man who loves giving a speech. My mom reached under the table and produced 2 thick white envelopes with raised gold lettering. She slid one to each of my brothers. "CEO and COO," she declared. Everyone clapped. Someone whistled. My brothers stood up as if they'd won a prize, hugging my dad and posing for photos in the candlelight. I watched, a cold feeling spreading through my chest. I didn't stand. I didn't clap. I just waited for my name to be called. It never was. "Where's mine?" I asked, keeping my voice low and even. My hand was steady, but my napkin trembled. My mom patted my hand like I was a child. "Sweetie," she said, "you're so valuable in operations. We need you focused on the little things." My brother grinned from across the turkey. "You're great at the spreadsheets," he added. My dad used his donor meeting voice. "And let's be honest, big deals are the boys' lane." "Big deals?" I asked, thinking of the driver turnover rates and the damage claim he'd forgotten to answer for 6 weeks. I didn't say that out loud. I took a breath and nodded once. "Okay." He nudged a small plain envelope toward me. "A thank you for your loyalty," he said. I opened it. Inside was a transitional role agreement. The title read, Senior Administrative Coordinator. The pay remained the same. It came with a non-compete clause covering anything in logistics or adjacent fields, and an assignment of inventions clause stating that anything I developed related to operations belonged to the company. No debate. A cousin whispered, "They really did that." Not quietly enough. "Sign it tonight," my mom said more loudly. "Keep the peace." My brothers raised their glasses for more photos as people cheered. My dad laughed like a man who had both sons in the frame and a daughter who would just take the notes. I slid the paper back under my plate and smiled calmly. "Then we'll make sure every term is right," I said. My dad's smile faltered as a camera flashed. He didn't like the word term, unless he was the one controlling it. A week later, we had the annual leadership brunch, a post-holiday event where the team sets goals over eggs at 10 a.m. My place card read admin support. The main table had a sign, "Executives only." A server pointed me to a side table near the coat rack. "Staff eats there," she said, looking apologetic. My brother waved at me from the main table with a fork in his hand. Grab pastries for the main table, he said, as if I were a kid at camp. I stared at my untouched plate. No, I said. He blinked as if he hadn't heard the word correctly. At a chamber event 2 weeks later, my dad introduced us. Our sons, he said, a hand on each of their shoulders. The future. He turned to me. Valerie keeps the office humming. A vendor chuckled. She's the secretary, he said. His badge showed he ran a warehouse we'd rescued from penalties 2 quarters earlier. I looked right at him. I negotiated your last contract, I stated. He blinked like a man who can't do math because he doesn't want to. My dad leaned in and hissed. Don't make this awkward. Cameras clicked. My cheeks burned, but I smiled like someone with perfect teeth and terrible dreams. My brothers came into my office with a fake casual air. We need help on a deck, one said. Just formatting. You're fast. I wrote the narrative, cleaned up the metrics, and added my forecasting model on 2 slides, simple, elegant, solid. I included a section at the end. Pilot next steps. The next day, they presented it to a room full of people with name tags. They had removed my name. They called it our new AI and took a bow I never got to try on. When I asked my mom about it, she said, "Don't be petty. This is family. What's yours is ours." Then HR emailed me a gentle reminder to sign the non-compete to align with the holiday announcement. I started forwarding key emails to a private archive. I exported my code and version history with timestamps. I stopped sharing access to my prototype. When a supplier tried to pressure me as a favor to the boys, I replied only in writing, summarizing the call with "per our discussion," and using dates as a shield. At night, I refined my model on a separate laptop. I told no one. I kept my head down at work and my eyes open at home. I overheard my brother scheduling a strategy reveal breakfast without inviting me from the hall outside the conference room. We'll roll out the AI thing next quarter, one said, sounding excited. Our innovation push. Investors love that, the other replied. They were talking about my code. They were talking about my roadmap. My hand steadied. I wrote down the date, the phrases they used, and who was in the room. What they didn't know was that the tool wasn't theirs. It wasn't a work spreadsheet I'd made at my desk. It was my product. I built it off hours on my own equipment. I fed it publicly available data and anonymized route patterns I'd noticed years ago. I had filed a provisional patent months earlier with only my name on it. The receipts sat in a folder. The commit logs lived in a private repository with clear timestamps. What they didn't know was that a regional carrier had already test-driven my tool quietly. In 4 weeks, they reduced missed windows by 21%. Their COO emailed me. When can we talk scale? I set those meetings under an LLC I formed on a Tuesday lunch break. The NDAs had my company's name, not my family's. They didn't know because they never thought to ask. What they didn't know was that I'd already hired an IP attorney to review the assignment clause they loved so much. She called it overly broad, and drafted a letter asserting my ownership and warning against unauthorized deployment. It said in polite legal terms, "Try me." I didn't want to use it, but I was prepared to. What they didn't know was that capital had started to circle. A mentor from a supply chain meetup liked my quiet pitch and introduced me to 2 funds. We weren't at the finish line or even the starting gun, but we were on the track. I had term sheet drafts and diligence questions in my inbox. I didn't count money I didn't have, but I counted every ping like a heartbeat. Tension grew like mold in an uncleaned corner. My attorney Priya didn't flinch when I said, "It's my family." She said, "That makes it hard. It doesn't make it different." She helped me document everything and gave me language that wasn't angry, just accurate. "Facts are your friend," she said. "Use them." Marcus, my mentor, told me over burnt but honest coffee. Stop being the engine for people who won't give you a steering wheel. He made me practice my pitch until I could say "my company" without looking over my shoulder. Mr. Alvarez, a vendor who's been in the business longer than my brothers have had driver's licenses, pulled me aside one Tuesday. "I know who solves problems here," he said. He signed a letter of intent to pilot under my LLC. "If they push you out," he said with a wink, "you've got your own trucks behind you." He knew the value of a promise on paper. Arrogance filled my family's home like yeast in a warm bowl. I overheard my dad on speakerphone. "We're presenting the AI module as part of our innovation push." My brother replied, We'll lock Val into the admin role. She'll sign. Have Grandma ask if we need to. They laughed. My stomach flipped, then settled. I wrote it all down, dates, names, words. The breaking point wasn't loud. It was a simple email at 9:12 p.m. Please sign attached by 8 a.m. or your access will be suspended. Attached were the non-compete, the IP assignment, and a family media plan with my photo under operations support, with a caption that held my name and no power. I stared at the screen, opened Priya's drafted letter, added "Please consider this our response" at the top, and typed one more word at the bottom. Send. I asked for a meeting the next morning. Just us, I said. Mom, Dad, and the boys. No board, no HR, no audience. We met in my dad's office, the one with the heavy desk and the glass paperweight I used to dust every year as a kid because it was your job, Val. Sunlight slid across the spine of a leather book he never reads. He folded his arms. You're making this difficult, he said. I'm making it precise, I replied. I set a slim folder on the desk but didn't sit. My brother scoffed. You don't own any of this, he said, as if we were already mid-argument. I slid the provisional patent receipt across the desk. My name was there in black and white. I slid the version control log next with its timestamps and commits. Then I slid Mr. Alvarez's letter of intent, addressed to my LLC, not theirs. This isn't company property, I said. It's mine. My mom flinched as if the letter were a slap. You brought a lawyer, she said. I brought clarity, I replied. I placed Priya's letter on top. Any attempt to present, deploy, or solicit using my code will trigger legal action. I read aloud. Additionally, the non-compete as written is unenforceable. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. My dad ran a hand over his jaw. You think you can walk out of here and do what we do? He asked. You'll be nothing without this name. Names don't ship freight, I said. Systems do. My mom tried a softer approach. Sweetie, she said, we're a family. Don't be cold. I'm not cold, I said. I'm tired. I took a breath and set my boundaries in the room like furniture that belonged there. I won't sign your assignment. I won't sign your non-compete. I resign from unpaid family duties, effective immediately. I'll transition only the shared processes that are yours, not mine. Don't contact my pilots. Don't contact my mentors. Don't use my materials. If you do, I will act. My brother tried to laugh. Act how? He asked. Post about it. File, I said. I don't want to, but I will. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't look. Not yet. My dad's face reddened. You're throwing away your future, he said. I finally glanced at my phone. A text from Marcus. Term sheet in. Call when clear. I looked up. Good luck running the routes I optimized by hand, I said. I won't be fixing your 2 a.m. surprises anymore. Don't be dramatic, my mom whispered. I think I've been quiet for a decade, I replied. This is me being exact. No one spoke for a moment. The office clock ticked. The glass paperweight caught a sliver of light and threw it on the wall like a small, stubborn star. I packed my mug, my dog-eared notebook, and the tiny plant by the window that always leaned toward the light as if it believed in it. I left my badge on the hook by the door. My mom stood in the hall with an unreadable expression. My dad stared at his polished desk as if it had a plan for him. No one stopped me. The next few months were a blur of calls, pilots, signatures, early mornings, and late nights. But now it was for me with my name on the calendar invites. The regional carrier expanded our trial into a full contract. Then another carrier called. Word moved like freight does when it's done right. Quiet, steady, on time. 2 funds led our round. We hired drivers who care about the wheel and data people who care about patterns. We didn't buy a billboard or post trendy dances. We shipped. We reported. We kept our promises. My mom texted twice. Small messages that sounded like someone else had typed them. How are you? Grandma asks about you. I wrote back, short and kind. I'm safe. Tell her I love her. My dad didn't call. My brothers posted new chapter. With emojis like confetti could hide a messy room. Vendors called me on the side to say, we know who did the work. I said, thank you, and went back to work. The first press didn't come until we had results. A small trade magazine ran a profile. Quiet founder tightens freight windows. We taped it to the office fridge like a report card. A year after that Christmas, a bigger headline hit. Quiet founder reshapes freight with forecasting. The piece mentioned our routes, our partners, our boring love of clean data. Forbes reported our valuation at $2.8 billion after our latest raise in 2 major partnerships. The number made my phone light up with messages from old classmates, distant cousins, and a brother with a congrats that felt like a hand pushed through a door he'd once shut on me. I smiled at the screen and then put the phone down. I had a call with a fleet manager who wanted to know if we could adjust for a new port schedule. We could. We did. I moved a block of time in my calendar to be at a driver's recital. I like work best when it lines up with a life, not over it. My dad sent a short email. Proud, it said. Just that one word, no period. I read it twice. I didn't write back that day. I let it sit in my inbox like an old paperweight. Heavy, familiar. Something I don't have to hold anymore. I stood by the office window and watched a truck back into the dock. The driver made the turn cleanly. The dock light turned green. Everything we'd built hummed without a camera on it. It was beautiful. I finally understood. I never needed their approval. If you've ever had to prove your worth to those who doubted you, hit subscribe and tell me your story. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Your voice matters here. Subscribe for more true stories of betrayal, justice, and strength.